Hello everyone and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again on this hot day in Melbourne, which is always good, by Steve Kern. How you doing there, Steve? How's Adelaide going, by the way?
Hi Ben, hi FiST Chat fans. It's hot here too, but we might have predicted that even back in the 1970s.
Absolutely. We'll get to the heat at a later stage, but just our usual housekeeping first. Don't forget our website, www.fistchat.com. You can get all our links there. You please subscribe to our audio via iTunes, RSS and Feedburner, and also our videos via YouTube, Vimeo and Digicosm TV. That's the best way to keep updated with our latest episodes and content. Follow us on Twitter, Google Plus and Facebook. Interact with us there too. I'd love to hear from you. We've got our ebook, the FiST Report, available 99 cents on Amazon, fistreport.com. So get up there and get your copy. It's I think, hopefully, if I don't say so myself, it's a nice little read, and it's very cheap, and it will support us as well. So it's just good to see it out there. And of course, we've got our supplementary content, the weekly blogs, photography on Instagram and Flickr, and recommend us to anyone who may be interested in listening to us. Now, we're going to talk about a few things today. Particularly, we've spoken about the future of medicine before, and we're going to focus a bit on regenerative medicine. But if we start with the poll that we ran last Friday, and this kind of ties in with our human lifespans topic that we did way back in our third episode of FiST Chat.
This is a good one, Ben, these results. I like them.
Would you like to live to 150 years of age? 40% said yes, 36% said no, 24% said possibly. So that's kind of a interesting across-the-board result. Got 2 comments. Is there a way to say hell no? And also, honestly, no one on this earth is guaranteed 100 years, let alone 150. We just got to make the most of our lives, live and learn, help those in need, and teach future generations to do the same, which is always a good way of looking at things. No
doubt about that. And you certainly want to make that so if you're going to live to 150, that's for sure.
Exactly. But I mean, you know, that's the thing. I mean, we touched on it with the human lifespans episode way back when, but I mean, having a look at this TED talk by Anthony Atala about printing organs as replacements when they fail, or if you need a new one. This is that's probably one step removed from actually going ahead and actually sort of regenerating from your own cells, kind of thing, these organs, which is really quite incredible. If you could if it ever got to the point where you could just interchange parts that weren't working properly, I mean, that in theory is going to extend your lifespan and quality of life for a lot longer period.
Just better health care, better medicines, better surgical procedures, better hygiene. All of those things have contributed us to almost tripling the lifespan, say, from 100 years ago. And now we're getting medical techniques, biomedical techniques, which are going to take us beyond that. We've got the oldest living population in history right now. And the people that are 70 and 80 now are trailblazers for the future. We've spoken about it before, as you said, Ben. There's no doubt we're going to live longer, live happier, better and more productive lives. That meaning like more exciting lives too. And technologies like the 3D printing of organs, I actually think will be an intermediary. So those sorts of things will probably occur 10 to 15 years from now. In the meantime, you'll probably be able to get animal organs for a couple of years until you get a human donor. And you might find that the 3D printed organs are an intermediary sometime in the future before we can actually use, I guess, genetic medicines to regenerate damaged organs from scratch. And that will keep us, at least on the inside, and physically younger. Although we're going to have a lot of time to think about it.
Well, it's quite amazing, though. I mean, it's almost like you're taking a car in for a tune-up and just replacing the faulty parts. That's a very different way of looking at how you'd go about, maintaining your health. But is there a danger that people could also just say, oh, I think I want to replace this, and maybe they don't need to, or maybe there isn't a need to. Could that sort of thing occur?
I'm sure that could occur. And the other thing that we might be slightly concerned about is that, everybody might be able to afford a new set of heart and lungs except for you. And I don't know what, happens in that case. You would think, though, that somewhere down the track, ultimately, there's going to be a few sticking points with this. I mean, you can't have people living to 150 because the population is going to explode. That means within, I guess, another 75 years, you'd have double the population almost if people were starting to live that long. And I think the other thing is that you've got to keep people occupied and interested for that amount of time. So humans aren't used to living that long. I don't know, like our comment was there in the poll, I don't know what you would do. It sounds nice to live to 150, but would you really want to?
Well, it is interesting.
Working until you're 145.
But then would the same people be saying that living to 80 or 90 is say if you asked people that 100 years ago?
Well, that's right.
Would they think that was too long? Or
I think the truth is, the closer we get to the our own mortality, the longer it's natural to want to live. So
that's right.
If you were young, you'd probably say you don't want to live to be 150, but if you're 75, you might want to.
Absolutely. Just want to pick up one thing I noticed in the TED Talk. There was quite an interesting little piece where they were saying that they were printing the I think it was a liver organ, and in effect, what they were doing was just printing the structure and then infusing and making sure all the all the vascular structure was in there, and then they just sort of pumped cells into it, and that's what kind of gave the life to the organ. Wouldn't the organ itself still have to have some sort of some sort of DNA sort of attachment to the host, so to speak, because isn't there like a rejection?
You'd be using stem cells, I think, to create that liver. I think the thing is, what's amazing about it is it's a proof of concept.
Yeah.
I don't think we're that close to it yet. There's a long way to go. Organs are very complicated structures, but the fact that we can even begin to think about how we would do it is a huge step forward. And that's what's so exciting about that TEDx piece, that they've actually worked out now how they could create, a replacement liver. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, we might move on because we've got still quite a bit to cover. We'll probably come back to that, and we'll probably post our human lifespans topic up this week too, just as a recap, because we have spoken about it before.
Good episode, that one.
But we'll just head into our news bites now, and we've got a couple of different things here. I enjoyed this one from Variety, our film news bite. Hollywood wastes future in China as NPC begins. China's annual National People's Congress met this week with, they had all the ceremony and the red flags up. And the interesting thing, I think the only thing that was interesting about this story was that, there's a Hollywood angle on it, meaning, that Hollywood's trying to figure out, what's going to happen with films they can export to China, and the Xi Jinping is apparently less on the censor side of things when it comes to film, and it could make for a more transparent market for US companies to operate in. I still get the feeling though that the Chinese might be a bit like the French. They want to make sure that their film industry's first.
and so they should. But I think it's a great deal for both parties. I mean, for China, it opens up a little bit of Hollywood magic that you and I just take for granted. And I think for Hollywood, it's awesome. There's an extra billion eyeballs.
Yep.
So, and a new way to finance surely what will be $1 billion production very shortly. So I think, on that score, it's very interesting to see that. And the Chinese have great filmmakers internally. So, of course, naturally they'd want to protect that. But I think it's a good deal both ways.
Just have to look at that Titanic 3D re-release last year, and that ended up becoming, I don't know how many hundreds of millions it made just in China. Everywhere else it was kind of ho-hum, but in China it really took off.
Fantastic film.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in 3D.
Okay, our science news bite, and we're going to get to the heat now. We mentioned this at the outset. Melbourne, this was past this particular article from The Age, which was talking about a potential heat wave that would have matched something that happened in the early 60s here. But I think we're officially past that in the last day or two. It's just been ridiculously hot. And obviously all of the climate change people get up in arms and all of that sort of thing when this sort of thing happens. How do you feel, Steve, when you go through a session of heat like this?
Well, I feel hot. Look, I think these things have been predicted through, the changes that are going on in climate. However, it is important to remember that weather is different to climate. So, just because we have a heat wave doesn't necessarily prove that there's climate change. However, when you put it together all over the globe and you see Arctic regions or polar regions heating up, it's only 1 or 2 degrees for us here, and, maybe we get an extra few days of heat thrown in. But that is how climate changes. These are the patterns of climate change, and, you can't get around that. And I think it's important to remember that, in temperate climates like, the southern parts of Australia where you and I are, we're very lucky. The climate's fairly mild and it's fairly, consistent across a year. But, all it takes is some temperature spikes, and there's no reason if the right atmospheric events occur that we couldn't expect, 1 or 2 months straight at 35 plus.
Well, I tell you, after about 8 or 9 days of 30, 34, 35, 36 degree weather, I think I've had enough. And certainly, especially in Melbourne, because there's humidity, I didn't mind the dry summers in Adelaide, but the humidity is just not something enjoyable to sit through.
That's it. And for anyone who's been to Death Valley in the States, I mean, the climate there is permanently 45 degrees or, 110 in the shade or something ridiculous like that. It can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and just finally our tech news bite, and we're sort of going back down memory lane again this was our second episode ever on Murdoch's paywall. And this is from Reuters. Rupert Murdoch conceded defeat last week in his battle with Google and the internet, an adversary even more powerful than the British government. Murdoch, uniquely among the world's media magnates, decided 2 years ago to create a paywall, which is what we discussed 2 years ago, I believe, for the London Times, but it couldn't be penetrated by Google and other parasitic search engines. In effect, the paper was cut off completely from the public internet. As one of Murdoch's newspaper managers later described the strategy, Rupert didn't just want to build a paywall, he circled it with barbed wire, dug a moat around it, and put crocodiles in the moat. I think we discussed this in that episode too, is that it's difficult. You would have to be creating something very unique and very high value in order to charge for it in that way. Otherwise, if it's too generic, or you don't agree with it, or you don't think it's of value, you're just going to find it for free somewhere else on the internet.
I mean, look, and that's a really good way of putting it, Ben. I think the other thing that's interesting is this just goes to show how much the whole landscape has changed 2 years ago. So 2 years ago was an extreme decision, but it was the right decision to protect their valuable content. The media landscape has changed, and it's probably not the best way to go about it. And I think that's what Murdoch's conceded here. I don't think he's conceded defeat. And I would actually look at it this way. If you can imagine that News Corp didn't exist today, but they started as a startup and they had the kind of content they have, I reckon if they put it behind a paywall, the paywall would work. People only rebelled against it because they were getting it for free to start with. Yeah,
absolutely. And maybe sort of Murdoch's aura might have had something to do with it as well.
Oh, I think so. But don't worry. I mean, he might just not call it a paywall anymore.
Yeah, they call it something far trickier.
That's right.
Okay, and just finally, give us, we've got some photos and footage that we'll overlay now, but Steve, you're at the Byron Bay Film Festival over the weekend. Can you tell us a bit about that and what you're up to?
Well, very lucky enough to present a film, How to Make a Film is what it's called, at the Byron Bay Film Festival. We closed out the festival with it. Fantastic festival. Honestly, anyone, anywhere in the world, submit for them next year, because if you get the chance to have your film up and you get to go along, not only do you get all the joys of community and great spirit at that film festival, honestly, it's a great film festival, and Byron Bay is beautiful.
Absolutely. And I also was having fun on the weekend at the Moomba Festival, which is Melbourne's free festival that the council puts on. They basically have amusement park rides and all that sort of thing. Got some footage of some fireworks that they put on, and they put that on each night. So a lot of fun, always enjoy it, and because it's funny when you're planning out holidays for the year, you look at the public holiday weekends, and somehow we always never really manage to book anything, and then we remember that festival's on. So it's always good to be there, and it's kind of good to be in an atmosphere like that where you kind of got those kind of events happening. It's sort of like how you're saying, going to the Byron Bay Film Festival when you're in a really good environment.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, what they put together. It's just the atmosphere and getting everyone together, having fun and all that sort of thing. So it was a really good time. All right.
Fantastic.
All right, Steve, we're out of time. So thanks again for the chat.
Anytime. Tweet us FiST Chat fans if you want to live to 150, or whether you think the paywall was really a good idea.
Absolutely. All right, so that's it for this week's episode. So we'll catch you next week.